If Porsche stands for performance and SUV stands for piggy, where does hybrid fit in there? Well, I guess we'll find out as we drive the 2011 Porsche Cayenne S Hybrid and check the tech. The Cayenne is the cash cow at Porsche, outselling its second bestseller, the Panamera, by double. That means volume, and that means important regulatory gains can be had by offering your volume leader as a hybrid. You see, you didn't need to ask for this car for it to be made.
Now, inside a Cayenne hybrid looks just like inside of a Cayenne non-hybrid. In fact, I'm not even going to detail the cabin tech and such. Go see our video on the 2011 Cayenne S, the non-hybrid. It's the same load of tech, optional and standard. You can find that at CNET TV. Just type in 2011 Cayenne when you get there. Now, Porsche has now gone to an 8-speed automatic on their Cayennes. It comes all the way back in your normal fashion, goes over to the side for a gate, forward for an upshift, back for a down. You've also got these metallized paddle thingies on the wheel. Here on the screen, this will show your hybrid energy flow. So what combination of power is going to the wheels and what's your battery state? Now down here behind our traditional suspension settings, which again a Cayenne S would have without a hybrid, is the e-power button. When you press e-power, it puts the car in a mode to bias toward running on electric and of course deplete the battery more. So you can drive this guy for a few miles, depending on how you get into it, as an electric vehicle. You see here on the main tachometer right in front of you, classic Porsche stuff, the big gauges, the tach. You've got something new here, a ready range. This car has auto start stop, not just when you're stopped at a light, but also when you're driving and don't need motive powers. You can be going down the highway in this guy, and the tach will rather unsettlingly drop down to dead. That's because it's freewheeling the motor. There's a clutch that will let the engine be disconnected and then turn itself off. Now, when you move a Cayenne around as a hybrid, you change a lot of things, not just slap an electric motor on there. If I lift this cover off, you can see we've got a blower here. There's the telltale pulley going into that housing, supercharger on the top into this relatively small 3-liter V6 as opposed to the standard Cayenne's big bore V8. Now, all in, this guy develops 380 horsepower, 428 foot-pounds of torque. Big numbers from a fairly small engine. Gets this guy 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds, and this is no lightweight vehicle, while delivering 2024 mpg through that one-choice-only 8-speed Tiptronic automatic. But note this, 47 of those horsepower and 221 foot-pounds of that torque come from the electric motor, which is downstream a little bit. And there's a clutch between this engine and the electric motor and transmission that allow it to be pretty much divorced from the drivetrain when that's the greenest way to run. Let the vehicle totally freewheel without any drag losses off the engine and do start-stop in a very ambitious way. That's part of the formula to get pretty good MPG, considering. Now, interestingly, Porsche did not put a hybrid badge on the back of the car. That's where most people see what's in front of them anyway. I'm kind of surprised by that, just those small ones up on the side. But there's other stuff in the back of this car that does tell you it's a hybrid. Back here in the cargo bay, load flat floor, pick this guy up and well, look at that. That is not a spare tire, folks. That's one big old honking nickel metal hydride battery, as it says right there. Now, because that's there, the spare tire isn't. There isn't one in this car. Pretty sure a Cayenne S has either a mini spare or a full size right there. Instead, you get this little concession to the modern world, this little tool kit with a little wrench and stuff like that. But the real giveaway is this: Porsche Reindinfliction Diction Middle. In other words, tire goop. When you get a flat tire, you're ingloriously hunkered down on the side of the road, squirting this stuff in there, hoping it holds. No spare. You've also got a little, very cool little Porsche air pump right here to put the air back in once the goop's in there. That's a big difference from a standard Cayenne S. Now, because we got all this stuff back here, the battery, the sealant, the spare pump and all that, you have a little less cargo space, 3.2 cubic feet less cargo space in the back of a hybrid. It's not obvious, but it's subtle. That's kind of the size of one small to medium suitcase that you're not going to fit in here. Okay, underway, the Cayenne is, shall we say, complicated. Think about it now. You've got a V6 engine, which is underpowered for this car in its displacement, but then you've got a supercharger that takes it well into the healthy range, but the supercharger can be in boost or not, depending where you are on the accelerator curve. That all goes to an electric motor, which can be in or out. There's brake regeneration when you get on the brakes, depending on how hard you get on them. You've got a clutch that can separate the engine from the rest of the drivetrain, depending on whether you're freewheeling, and the whole thing will auto start stop whether you come to a stop or sometimes when you're driving at high speeds. And all of that equation gets pumped out through an 8-speed automatic that does a bit of thinking. Now, if that doesn't sound complicated to you, you don't know what complicated is. And this car does drive complicatedly. Its transitions and its overall everyday driving are just kind of bulky and clunky and back and forth. Not egregiously so. You know it's an expensive car, but it's just doing too much transitioning. On the open road, when you're really getting into it, that's fine. It doesn't have those issues. But around town, everyday commute, I found it to be kind of a tiring mess of sensations and transitions that I got tired of.
Time for the bottom line. Let's put the Cayenne S up against the Cayenne S Hybrid. Average MPG, 18 for the S, 21 for the Hybrid, so you pick up 3 miles per gallon average. 0 to 60, 5.6 versus 6.1. The Hybrid's half a second slower. Curb weight, the Hybrid's 385 pounds heavier. Cargo space, the Hybrid holds 3.2 cubic feet less. Greenhouse gases, here's a surprise, the Hybrid's a little dirtier. Spare tire? Well, no. And the price, you're paying $4,000 more for a Cayenne S Hybrid. So if you drive 15,000 miles a year and pay $4.50 a gallon for gas, you can earn back the Hybrid premium in 7.5 years.
So as you can tell, I've got my doubts whether a Cayenne Hybrid makes sense in your life or mine, but for the manufacturer, for Porsche, it definitely does. Because of the increasingly tight standards for emissions and fuel economy in the European market and in the US, they need vehicles like this in their mix because these guys sell hand over fist. To make them a little bit more efficient helps their average numbers to get to what the government requires, and that frees up Porsche to sell more sports cars that do what they do unabashedly.